Every morning at exactly 7 o'clock, an old man named Thomas walked slowly down the narrow path toward the lake. The small town was still quiet at that hour. Most people were asleep, and the only sounds were the birds singing and the soft wind moving through the tall trees. Thomas had been coming to the same bench by the lake for almost 20 years. The bench was old and a little crooked. The green paint had faded long ago, and the wood had small cracks from many winters and summers. But to Thomas, it was the most comfortable place in the world. He sat there every morning with a small thermos of coffee and watched the water. Some days the lake was calm, like a mirror. Other days the wind made little waves that sparkled in the sunlight. But Thomas didn't come only for the view. He came for the memories. You see, many years ago, he used to sit on that same bench with his wife, Margaret. Margaret loved mornings. She always said that the morning was the most honest part of the day. No noise, no rush, no problems yet. Just a quiet moment when the world was waking up. She would bring sandwiches, and they would sit together talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes they talked about their children, sometimes about the past. Sometimes they simply watched the water and said nothing at all. And strangely, those silent moments were the happiest ones. But life, as it always does, kept moving forward. Their children grew up and moved to different cities. The house became quieter. Then one winter, Margaret became sick. At first, they thought it was nothing serious, just a cold, maybe the flu. But the doctors said something different. The last time Margaret visited the lake, she walked very slowly. Thomas held her arm the whole way to the bench. They sat there for a long time that day. The sky was gray, and the lake looked darker than usual. Margaret smiled softly and said something Thomas would never forget. "Promise me one thing," she said. "Keep coming here, even when I'm not with you." Thomas didn't answer right away. He just held her hand. But finally he nodded. "I promise." Margaret passed away a few weeks later. For months after that, Thomas couldn't bring himself to visit the lake. The bench felt too empty without her. But one morning he remembered his promise. So he walked down the same path again. And when he sat on the bench, something surprising happened. It didn't feel empty. It felt peaceful. It felt like Margaret was still there in some quiet way. In the wind, in the water, in the memories. Years passed. Thomas grew older. His hair turned completely white, and his steps became slower. But he never missed a morning at the lake. One day, as he was sitting on the bench, a young boy walked up to him. "Excuse me," the boy said politely. "Is anyone sitting here?" Thomas smiled. "No," he said. "Go ahead." The boy sat down and started skipping small stones across the water. After a few minutes, he asked, "Why do you come here every day?" Thomas looked at the lake for a moment before answering. "Well," he said slowly, "because some places in life are full of memories, and if you stop visiting them, the memories get lonely." The boy thought about that. Then he nodded like he understood something important. They sat there quietly together for a while, watching the ripples on the lake. And for the first time in many years, Thomas realized something. Memories are not just about the past. Sometimes they help build the future too.